Welcome back to another edition of the BPL Vidcast. Ashley Browne, the editor of the site, with me today. How are you, Ash?
I'm well, Charlie.
Excellent.
Not so well. I'm back armband under here like everybody else in the country. It's all a bit bleak.
There's been some major gnashing of teeth and wailing and general carry-on, but it is a bit funereal. You're dead right, Ash. Everyone seems to have an opinion about the test team, the makeup of the team for the next test in Perth. Seems like there's going to be three changes. Katic out injured. Marcus North and Xavier Doherty probably dropped. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but you got any views about that?
Well, you say Marcus North, and everyone in the country's calling for him to drop from the side, but Ricky Ponting has left the window open ajar again, saying he's got a shield match or something on the weekend to stake a claim, and doubtless if he makes a few runs on the weekend, he still might linger for a home test in Perth next week.
He clearly gets in under the good bloke policy, and that's a policy which I think Brad Hodge perhaps didn't get in on. You've got to be.
That's what they say.
It is alleged. You've got to be mates with Ricky. That's almost step one to get a game. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a bit element of that. And so I think they place enormous store on change room chemistry, perhaps at the expense sometimes of just blokes who go out and can take wickets or get some runs.
Yeah, the Hodge omission. I know it's all it's in vogue now to talk about how unlucky he's been, and he has been, but with his latest flurry of runs. But it's clearly too late for him now to make a comeback to the Test arena, I would think, as it is Shane Warne, Ashley.
Well, the hypothetical, Charlie. Well, at least Hodge is still playing. If the hypothetical, Charlie, if Andrew Hilditch knocks on your door one night when you've come back from walking the dog and you're B Hodge, what would you do?
I'd
and he says, "Come play."
Put the lid on and pad up. Pad up.
Well, I think he would. It's not going to happen, but I think he would. But there's a gaping hole on the side for an informed middle order batsman, and they can't find anyone to fill it because the guys in the next in line, such as guys like Khawaja, etc., aren't making runs either. It's
amazing how the world turns. I mean, Mike Hussey, who 90% of the cricket community thought shouldn't have been picked in the first test, including me. He was picked, went on to make a poultice of runs. He's now sort of the star of the batting lineup. Mitch Johnson, who we've dropped a week ago after the first test, people are clamouring for his return. I mean, it's such short-termism. Yeah,
but that's... the reserves seem quite thin, so they just can't find anyone. They can't take 20 wickets. They just got to keep trying whatever they can. Now they're thinking for Perth, do they play 4 quicks, sacrifice a batsman, bring in Smith to bat at 7 and be the spinner, and move Haddon, who came back a few down, to 6.
Time to roll the dice clearly, and that would appear to be the way to go. Force quicks and a spinner. Krazier, I'm not sure, probably doesn't cut the mustard as a batsman, but Smith, as you say, can double up as a kind of number 7.
That's right, he's probably the next best. Cam White probably missed the boat now in terms of his bowling. He's fallen too far behind, so he's probably not the right option. So play Smith, see how it goes. It's funny how there's one school of thought clamouring that it's the Ashes just pick the best available team if it's a bunch of 35-year-olds, hence trying to get Brad Hodge back is the way to go. And others are saying cut the losses now and start the rebuilding process that perhaps in hindsight should have happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I must say, don't despair about their chances. I know they've been given away as a bad joke. If they can kind of run through them early in Perth on a really hard, fast deck, and let's pray for one of those, need a bit of luck with the toss and holding the catches and so on, suddenly you're 1-all. It's a bit of a flip of the coin, Perth, I think. There'll be a result there. And then you've got 2 tests where you hope you can sneak another win.
But then you've got Ricky always bat first. Ponting, would he have the cojones to send the Poms in on a fast deck in Perth?
Yeah,
not his nature to send a team in.
I must say it's been interesting to observe just how much veiled criticism there has been of his captaincy from the Channel 9 commentary team and others, and I've never really noticed it quite as much as this series. It's like the guy who's lost the Ashes twice is under scrutiny like never before. Shane Warne has been criticising his fields non-stop.
There hasn't been a lot of... They're not one for major criticism on Channel 9, but I think the dynamics changed now with Warne, who clearly is a critic, probably the number 1 critic now, Ponting, taking a prominent place in the commentary spot, and with so many former Test captains in there, perhaps they felt they didn't want to second guess, but when they've got someone like Warney leading the charge, then perhaps the Tubby Taylors, etc., starting to weigh in. Yeah,
good point. Okay, well look, that's enough cricket for the moment, Ash. Let's look at AFL quickly. A major event in Melbourne this week, well, if you're an AFL follower anyway, in that Mark Thompson, the prodigal son, reappeared at Essendon on the final day of the test, it should be said. So they sort of secreted that one away quite nicely, and not long after the pre-season draft. So, but it was kind of a press conference they had to have, because there was his return was very much the elephant in the room, and they had to address the media and face the media down for what had been a fairly grimy process.
Yes, and some of the big guns of journalism left the golf course to go cover that one, so it was obviously
some medium guns there too.
Yeah, that's right. Some big deals, but look, I think he answered. He was unrepentant. He basically said, "This is what I've got to say about leaving Geelong. This is why I left. This is why I came here." He mounted a reasonable case as to why it should be considered different to, say, the Gary Ablett defection from Geelong. Certainly, in terms of the fact he's taking less money to Essendon, whereas Ablett's taking a lot more on the Gold Coast. He didn't really get around to addressing the tapes of the phone
records.
Phone records that suggest there's been contact with Geelong, with Essendon as early as July with David Evans. So, look, I think he said, this is what I've decided to do. Deal with it. I think the message to Geelong was get over it. The message to Essendon was we've got a lot of work and we're going to get started on it. And the young James Hird standing next to him looked like the cat, pardon the pun, who'd licked the cream.
Yeah, look, there's still a bit of, there's a lot of unanswered questions about the whole deal. There will be
plenty of unanswered, and they're not going to get answered. I mean, I think they're going to get answered now.
I think Bombers put a stake in the ground, said, and has been totally unremorseful and unapologetic, said, I've done what I've done, I'll do the same thing again, no regrets, if journos want to keep banging on about it. But I found it interesting that he said to Geelong supporters and officials, if you still fussed about it, that's your problem. He's really quite defiant, wasn't he? Yeah,
that's right. He's really drawn the line. I mean, there's a few of the Geelong players that will say they haven't had the sort of closure conversation with him, which is all interesting, but I think that not going to happen anymore either. So, look, it gets put to bed for a while. It'll be dusted up again, head around 15 next season when the two teams square off. I think it's a Friday or a Saturday night game at Etihad. But what's interesting is that Geelong are going down a very different path now without Thompson, and the mollycoddling of the late starts to pre-season and the training camps has been wiped out. Scott's just got them working hard at Geelong. No trips to New Zealand, no trips to Utah or Arizona, and just getting on with it. And the guys like Ling and Scarlett and others who've pretty much had the run of the place, as was suggested in Mark Thompson's closing remarks after the preliminary final when he said that perhaps they didn't embrace change to the game plan. That's been changed at Geelong, and my understanding from talking to Geelong people is that it's a very, very different sort of football club now.
That was actually a very revealing press conference that Mark Thompson gave, which I know is slightly ancient history now. But the players, the senior ones, didn't take on board some of the changes he wanted to make, which are about kicking more and handballing less. And the Roosters came home to, what's the phrase?
The chickens came home to roost.
That's it. Roosters came home to chicken.
Yeah.
When they got beaten so comprehensively in the finals. Ash, let's quickly talk about the other major sport that's worthy of note this week, which is, of course, the Football Federation of Australia and our failed World Cup bid for 2022. What's the fallout?
Amazing. Ben Buckley and Frank Lowy were spotted in Australia in the same room at the same time, which is quite remarkable given how much globetrotting they've done of late, trying to sell the World Cup bid, but they've got no choice now but to settle down at home. Very interesting press conference yesterday held on Tuesday in Sydney. Buckley seems to have recommitted to the cause. Someone was trying to peddle a Buckley back to the AFL rumour when the bid fell over, but seems to be committed to the cause. But really, he's got three fundamental things he needs to deal with: is fixing up the A-League, which is spiralling out of control and is showing very early signs of being the old NSL with poor crowds and baffling decisions in terms of scheduling and fixturing. Moving the season back to an October start is a very sensible idea. Number two is get the Socceroos going, and they've got to qualify for Brazil. The only chance we've ever got in my children's lifetime of seeing a World Cup in Australia is if our national team's powerful. Yeah. So they've got to, just has to qualify every 4 years for the World Cup. And number three is re-engaging with the grassroots.
Brilliant. Once again, thanks for that concise summary, Ash, and we'll see you next week.